What you are listening to is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in the squared circle. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their cases and have their disputes settled here in our forum, the Turnbuckle Debate.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Turnbuckle Debate. I'm Tom, filling in for Sneed today, running the ship.
I'm Chad.
And
I'm Colton.
There's Colton, and we have returning for the second time, Anthony Blackwell from the ABJ podcast. Welcome back, man. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be back. I don't have a beer this time. I feel bad. I feel like I'm in the tavern without a beer. That should be a crime. But maybe next time. My third appearance, I'll have some beers.
Yeah, man. Happy to have you back. Now, last time you were on, you were representing the Tornado Tag. Now we've got the ABJ podcast. Fill us in. What's going on? What's the new show? Give us all the details.
So I was doing 5 podcasts for about 4 years, and it just became too much. Trying to run 5 podcasts that have their own individual social medias and their own individual Facebook, Instagram, Twitters, TikToks, and you're doing that for 5 different shows on all those different platforms, and trying to do that solo was very, very difficult. And I'm the type of person, if I'm going to put my mind and effort into something, I want it to grow and I want it to be successful. And it just became too much for one person. So I kind of shut them all down, started fresh, doing it pretty much solo. And I just used my name as my branding and kind of doing the same thing of all those shows just on one YouTube channel. And a lot of the stuff that were podcasts are now just content on YouTube. But then the ABJ podcast, which is essentially just interviews with people. It's a lot of wrestling interviews and independent interviews. But I will start adding more people in there, like content creators, and I had a movie director as well as a guy in a band. So it is gonna get way more vast. But as of right now, with me doing commentary and I'm traveling all over between multiple states, it's just easier for me to interview independent talent because I know a lot. I know a lot of them.
That's awesome, man. I mean, if you look at Joe Rogan, he started out interviewing pretty much stand-up comedians, and look where he went. Biggest name in the business. So
stick with your niche, right?
Yeah, man. Happy to have you here for the debate. I just got to say up front before we get into the debate, full disclosure, this is recording on Wednesday. Yesterday, the indie wrestling movement community lost a huge star. Hit me really hard. I know a lot of fans out there, obviously the family, the friends. Jay Briscoe lost his life at 38, much too fucking young, man. Honestly, a little broken up about it the last 2 days. They were one of my favorites, like a lot of fans out there. And I just wanted to give respect to one of the legends of the business, probably one of the top 3-4 names in American wrestling that never went to WWE and paved their own path. He's right there with the Bucks and Omega and those type of guys that never went the route of Stanford. So all love to the friends, family, Mark Briscoe, all of those people. Just felt I had to say it because it's so raw and fresh right now. Truly heartbreaking, tragic. All my thoughts go out to Jay Briscoe's family.
And so many prayers to his daughters right now who are still in the hospital and going through a lot. So just send prayers.
Is it both of his daughters? Because now I'm hearing reports that it's one of his daughters and the other one was with the wife.
From what the post that was on Facebook from the wife is, one is stable and doing a little better. Like she's got injuries, but she's doing better. And then one is dealing with some pretty serious back issues. Right? Yeah. So
did they ever say who the other person in the car was?
I don't think so. I've heard is Jay was driving, 2 daughters, and then the driver of the other car.
Okay, that makes sense then. Because when they were saying it, it sounded like it was 2 passengers passed away and then 2 were in critical. So I was like, oh, was it just a 1-car accident? And now it makes sense if two people passed away. It's probably both drivers.
Yeah, both
Yes,
drivers.
drivers.
Evidently, the car was going the other way, the other direction, swerved over into their lane of traffic. No one knows why. That driver was wearing the seatbelt. Jay was not wearing a seatbelt, and it's just a shitty situation, man. I hate this stuff. It's one thing to lose a legend. You know, it sucks when you lose a Scott Hall or someone like that. That really hurts the community. But when you're someone who's really in the midst of a pretty incredible run, I mean, they had 20 years under their belt, but at the same time, you felt like they were still just scratching the surface. 38 years old, that's younger than me.
Mhm.
And I'm 39, and it really, really hits, man. It's like, damn, you know.
Yeah, I'm not going to be that person that who's going to be all like the Briscoe guy, because I didn't know much about them. All I knew of them, it was their stance on some topics that I'm very passionate about, and they were very anti that stuff. So I stayed away from them for a long time. I didn't agree with their stances. I didn't like the stuff they were saying, so I didn't watch their content. And then they came out and they changed their stance on it, which is huge, because that's the biggest the takeaway for me is two guys who were so set in their ways, like we are anti this, and if you do this, we are so against it, and then had a rebirth and rechanged themselves and said, hey, listen, and they didn't do it. It didn't seem like they did it just because it was holding them back in their career, because it did. They weren't allowed to be on WWE. They weren't being asked to come to AEW because of what they said and what they've done, and they made honest attempts to change their mind state and make friends in those communities and learn about that community and realize what they were spewing was not good. And they made positive changes in that direction. And once they did that is when I started following them. And probably the three best matches in 2022 all come from them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's for
And
sure.
I think a lot of that, whether it was things they said on Twitter, things they said in character, out of character, whatever it is, I think the key to society today is not to completely throw someone away over a comment made when they were maybe younger, not as well-rounded of a human being. I think for someone to show growth and to improve and get better,
Allow people to grow.
Allow people to grow and change and become better people. That's what it's all about. It's not about just holding someone to one thing for the rest of their life and they never get,
So true. It's so true. We've all said stuff in the past, I'm sure, that we could dig up and say, shit, man, I was stupid for saying that. So we learned from our mistakes, and you know what? From seeing the love and support from everybody who knew him, it didn't seem like there was any hate in his heart or their heart. So
no, you had people like Effie and so many people across the spectrum of the tiny little subcultures of the wrestling community coming out in full support. And Colton, did you have anything you wanted to say before we move into the topics?
You're muted.
We're not getting any audio from you, Colton.
Oh, you got it now?
Yeah, there you go.
Hello? Check. All right, solid. Sorry, guys. Been having some technical difficulties this morning or this afternoon. But just to echo what you guys said, I mean, and especially Anthony, like I like what you said there. I think the whole point of progress is allowing people to improve and get better. And like it's nice you don't always get to see that from folks when they've had something, not as pretty from their past come back up. So I'm glad that they had that opportunity. And yeah, it's just been kind of somber day all around, man. My part of the country has been pretty gray and rainy all day, and just kind of have a cloud over the day, no pun intended. So it's just incredibly wild to think about the year that they just had. I mean, the career they've had, but just the 2022 that those guys had, and to see it just ripped away in a matter of seconds at 38, it's just so damn sad.
NXT did give them a shout out last night on air.
That was so cool.
That was crazy. Yeah. I just watched a TikTok of Dalton Castle, an old ROH clip of Dalton Castle, and he comes up to Kyle O'Reilly and he puts his hand out and Kyle kisses his hand. And then Brisk J walks in and he puts his hand out and he goes, "I'm not kissing your hand, man." And Kyle goes, "Yeah, that's weird. Why would he do that?" Like, after he just kissed his hand.
That's awesome. Guys, we got 3 topics here, one of which you brought to the table, Anthony. You guys ready to debate?
Let's get into it.
Go.
All
The
right.
master debater. I don't know if I made that joke last time.
Question number 1: who wins the Rumble?
Men or women?
Let's start with the women. Let's start with the women.
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
go ahead.
shoot.
So I think everyone's probably favorite is Rhea. I'm trying to think logically, and that's probably a dumb thing to do with WWE, but I feel like they need to get Alexa Bliss to SmackDown to make her character make sense, so we don't have this Bray Wyatt taking up 2 shows. And I guess that's just me not wanting Bray Wyatt on 2 shows. So get Alexa over to SmackDown. They need help over there. They need a monster heel, because if Charlotte's rocking the babyface, there is nobody in that SmackDown division that is good. I think food and drinks are coming to me. Sorry. They have nobody over there. SmackDown's division had 8 months without Charlotte to make something happen, and no one can pick up that ball and run with it. And so they need help over there. And I think someone from Raw needs to win to then go to SmackDown. I think it just makes sense for Alexa Bliss.
I like that pick because Alexa is a star and she's been showing signs of her old self. So I would love to see her get another push, get to win the Rumble, and head over there. I'm going to piggyback.
We also don't know the stipulations to Elimination Chamber, because that can throw a monkey wrench in anything.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I think whoever wins the men's Rumble and women's Rumble, I think the counter shows will then win the men's and the women's Elimination Chambers.
You're probably right about that. I think you're totally spot on with Alexa needing to be moved to SmackDown. Their division over there is desperate need of something. It's light. And but I think Triple H he seems like he's a fan-friendly guy. I know they have their plans, and if Alexa's in his plan, maybe that happens. But I tend to think that Trips does listen to the groundswell a little more than Vince, and I think that Rhea surge right now, it seems like Judgment Day is getting some heat behind it, especially now you have people who are actually being entertained by Dominic. People wanted that kid to go away like 2 months ago, and now
go away heat.
Yeah, now he's becoming like one of the more entertaining things. It shows in the booking. Those guys are getting thrown in with the Bloodline. That's a huge step up in that tag match scenario. And Rhea's just getting all of these great spots. I think she goes over. I think Trips gives the fans what they want. I think Rhea wins the Rumble.
Rhea gets eliminated by a returning. You ready for this? Beth Phoenix. Which sets up their match for her to come back and get that retribution against her at Mania.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. What do you think, Colton?
Man, I think Rhea. I've been kind of going back and forth on it all day, but I mean, I'm a huge Rhea mark. Always have been, even in NXT. As you guys know, I've been probably one of the few people fighting for Dominic since day one, telling people to give that kid a break. Like,
you have, man.
Not necessarily because I think dude's great, but like, the kid had his entire childhood fucking ruined by Vince McMahon. Like, there's no way you don't get some trauma from your actual real life uncle saying he's your dad to your actual real life dad on TV. Like, there's no way you come out of that unscarred. So I'm all about the Judgment Day shit. That's been my least favorite thing about the Judgment Day, is that I'm just not seeing enough out of Rhea in there. I mean, she's, you got this mommy dominatrix kind of character going on with Dom, but I'm not getting enough in-ring Rhea. I mean, I think she is by far the most dominant force in the WWE's women's division right now, and I think she's long overdue to get back in the title picture. So yeah, my pick's Rhea for sure.
I think she came off that concussion injury, and I think instead of keeping her off TV, they just kept her ringside. And then when she does have in-ring stuff, it's very far and few between, because I think they realize if she's hurt and she's gone, that's a huge loss. So I think they're leaning her back in really, really slowly. And I think it's smart. I think more people should start doing that. I think, even though I'm not a fan of how they're doing her right now, but Britt Baker showed during her time, listen, she was on a hot path and she hurt herself, and she stayed on screen while she was hurt. She didn't go away, and it helped her tremendously. And I think they're doing the same thing with Rhea, because she went away for a while and people were like, what are we doing? And they're like, just put her ringside. Like, dress her up as a hot goth chick, put her in garter belts, and get her out there, and everyone's going to love it.
Dude, yeah. It's the Stone Cold Steve Austin
She's going to be the best part of Raw.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see. It's going to be good women's Rumble this year, I think. Let's go with our men's picks. Anthony, tell us.
I think this is the most obvious one out of all of them. I think Cody Rhodes wins the Rumble.
Yeah, I felt the same way since he came back. That was my pick when he came back. He's winning the next Rumble to go to Mania. I'm sticking with that pick, unless The Rock shows up. But I think it's Cody.
The Rock doesn't need to win anything to get a shot at Roman. This whole bloodline story has been built around the head of the table, and all The Rock has to do is show up on Monday, if he shows up on Monday, and just say, "What are you talking about? The head of what? I'm the head of this table," and there's your match.
Yeah.
I think it's Cody's to lose, but it does like make me question it. I know we always say sometimes predictability in pro wrestling is a good thing, but is this one of those moments? Because man, they're telegraphing this Cody win. Like it just seems like so cut and dry. And as an old school wrestling fan, when you see them leaning so heavy into that, it makes you think a swerve is coming or something's coming. Sometimes, like I said, predictability is a good thing. Cody wins, that makes all the sense in the world, the way they're handling it. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if they go some other direction. I wouldn't be shocked if they let Rollins win. Like he is hot right now. I could see them going that route. I could see it. To me, it's probably it's a 2-man race. I think it's Cody or Rollins. The Rock is definitely a wild card, but that's more of just like popping the crowd for a big moment. He doesn't need to win the Rumble at all. But if you were wanting to just do complete fan service, let's get the biggest pop imaginable, have Rock enter at 30 and win it, people would lose their minds. But I think most likely it's Cody. I hate to not have a debatable person to throw you at, but they're just pointing all signs to Cody Rhodes.
That's your money guy. You don't build a guy out for 2 years. Because people are saying the craziest stuff like Sami's going to beat him at Rumble. It's going to be this guy beating him at Mania. And it's like, you don't build up this monster character for 2 years. The guy who he has to lose to is going to be your next thing. And Cody's your next Cena. Cody's your next Make-A-Wish. Cody's your next Ms. and Mrs. TV show with him and Brandy. Everything about Cody is your money guy. And that's where they go. They have to.
What do you think, Colton?
I think it's got to be Cody too. I mean, I like what you said, Chad, about how, definitely it kind of seems like a swerve is coming the way they've already thrown him on the poster. And I mean, it just all signs point to Cody. But I mean, going back to what we said last week's debate about WWE and the Royal Rumble, I mean, hell, they announced 27 out of 30 dudes. I mean, they put him on the poster. They're just basically telling us he's going to win. I mean, they just like to give everything about this fucking show away at this point. So I think it's definitely Cody. I mean, I'd be down for a swerve, but I think I'm not usually that confident. I'm going to say I would bet the farm on Cody winning Royal Rumble for sure.
This feels like when Becky and everybody knew that Becky and Seth were going into Rumble and they're winning it. Like,
Is there any world, real quick, Tom? Is there any world where Sami Zayn could win this Rumble?
That's what I was just going to say. Can you imagine a pop if he wins it? And I think they've built him up so much. Yes, he can win it. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I do think there's a chance, especially if by the Rumble, Triple H is still in charge. If Vince is in charge, we get to change our picks because it's going to be dark. But if Hunter's still in charge, yes, I think there is a small shot that Sami Zayn could win.
Sami's walking into Mania or winning at Mania a title, but it isn't a solo title.
He doesn't have to win, even if he wins it. It could just be a great match that you go in thinking he has no shot to win, but halfway through the match, you're thinking, oh my God, is he going to do it?
Him and Kevin are either going to leave Elimination Chamber in Montreal as tag team champions, or they're winning him at Mania.
Sami is the ultimate, in case of emergency, break glass that they have in their back pocket. If something were to happen with Cody, if The Rock was like, I'm too busy, I can't make the show, I can't make Mania. If you would lose Cody and The Rock from that Roman Reigns main event WrestleMania picture, the next man in line is Sami Zayn.
I agree.
Yeah,
100%.
All right, guys. Any closing thoughts before we move on to our next topic?
I just want to say one more thing on Sammy. If in retrospect, and I said this even before it happened, I said the 3 years in a row, everyone says who wins Money in the Bank, and 3 years in a row, me and my buddy were in the Sami Zayn camp. Could you imagine Austin Theory does not win Money in the Bank, and you give it to Sammy, and this entire Bloodline feud has been, I got you, Roman. I got you, Uzi. I got the case. You are protected as long as I have this. And that's always sit in the back seat of this whole storyline. It would have been amazing.
That would have been great. That would have been a really good angle. And Roman's kind of distrusting of him. Like, are you going to cash? It would build the rift between them even more.
Yeah.
That one last thing, Tom, before we move on, just back to Rhea, I have to comment on one thing that I think is a feather in her cap. Like you said, Anthony, she's been hurt, but they've still managed to work her in. But even though she's not in the ring, you can tell, man, she has transformed her body. Like she has put so much work in the gym. It's visible. She's a powerhouse. And I think Triple H, being a gym rat himself, when he sees superstars putting work in like that, where you could visibly tell the effort they're putting in, I think that holds a lot of weight with him. So that's just something to think about going into the Rumble.
All right. So question number 2. The question you brought to us today, Anthony. Who are the Royal Rumble surprises? It's your question. You start.
You got 2 of my heavier fit hitters on the screen up there in the top right and top left. I think Matt Cardona is very high on that list, and I think Nick Aldis is high on that list of 2 people who I think are not guaranteed, but I think very, very high on the list. Aldis is going to be a guy I think comes into WWE, maybe works a small little program, and then I think he might go down and he becomes a trainer or helps out with NXT. I don't know how long we have for him on screen. Just because I just not really sure how they want to book him, but I can definitely see all this coming in, as well as Mickey, who's probably closing in on her end in Impact soon. I think she's winning the title. I think she's going to drop it to probably Deanna, and then she's going to get out of her contract, or her contract's going to run up, and they're both bound to come back and be trainers or help supports at NXT. And Cardona, if you're putting the title on Cody, what better person to come in and rival Cody? One of his first rivals would be a returning Matt Cardona, who's a monster heel right now, and they're best friends in real life. And I think the chemistry is perfect, and I think they're both 2 good fits to come back to the WWE.
I think you're booking like a wise man would book. I just wonder if the WWE is the same type of wise man.
Just step in at any point in time, and this all goes to hell.
Dude, I'm with you, man. Like, I think if they would book it correctly, and if they would bring Matt Cardona in as Matt Cardona, in as the heel we've grown to love in GCW, Impact, NWA, he is the quintessential bad guy for a Cody Rhodes title run. I mean, it would be incredible if they handled it that way. I don't know if they're going to break away from that Zack Ryder brand that they've built. And I don't know if Cardona would come back unless all of these boxes are checked that he needs. He needs his podcast. He needs to keep his name, Matt Cardona. All of these things, are they going to check those boxes for him? I think Nick Aldis is on the table. I don't know where Mickey just won the title in Impact. I'm wondering, is Impact going to go the Nick Aldis route? Does he go back there from NWA to back to TNA/Impact? I don't know if Jay White is on the table either. I know some people are saying Jay White. I don't know if the WWE casuals, if Jay White came out, would that really get a big reaction? I wonder about that. I know he's got the tie with the Bullet Club, and there's Finn Balor and AJ Styles out there that you could do some cool stuff with, but
I just want Jay White, Seth Rollins.
It'd be incredible.
I think Jay White and Seth Rollins are the top 2 wrestlers in the world right now, and I need them together.
That would be incredible. It would be worth him coming over just for that feud. But if I had to pick one surprise, like if I'm going to throw my money down and say he's probably going to show up, I'd probably say Matt Cardona, but I'm not convinced it would be with a contract. I think he could come back just for a one night only, pop the crowd, go back and do his thing But I could see that more than him coming back into a full contract with his name and all of that.
I would bring Matt back, but I would bring him back as Zack Ryder. And I'd have people like, what? Like, I'd have the fans angry about it.
This is
what
what
I would come in and be that giant goofball baby face. And then he turns, he snaps. So this is why I didn't come back to this bullshit. I hate this. And then just have him like, and then the next week comes back and he's Matt Cardona and he turns on. Like, I would have him come back as Ryder first just to piss people off and then have him transition.
This is similar to what I was going to say. What I do if I'm booking it, at number 4, you hear Zack Ryder's music come out. He comes running out. He gets eliminated right away. And then number 26, Matt Cardona comes out. Everybody's like, he came back as this. He's back as Zack Ryder. And then you shock him with the little swerve.
Give him the Mick Foley treatment.
Mick Foley treatment. I think that'd be a load of fun to do. I don't think they'd pull it off.
Tom, you're tapped into, the whole major world with Brian Myers, Matt Cardona. You have your finger on the pulse of like everything they're saying and on the podcast and stuff. What does your gut tell you? Do you think Matt Cardona comes back at the Rumble?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
He's made comments on the podcast how he's taken time off. He wasn't taking bookings for a while leading up to the Rumble. And he's like just saying he needs time off. Just sounds too coincidental. Now, all of a sudden, he's posting it. Oh, I'm taking bookings again, which I found that kind of weird. I saw him tweet that out the other day. So, I mean,
almost like he's trying to throw fans off the scent.
He's been trying, and I think a lot of places know that he's probably not going to be on the scene anymore. So his rate's going to be really, really high because this is the last time you're going to get him.
And
that's true.
At the GCW show a couple weeks ago, he was right in the WWE in the air like Bret Hart did after the Survivor Series.
Sometimes when I see him do that, though, I feel like it's just him trolling the fans.
He does troll the fans, but I think there was more to that than that.
They said Chelsea Green is essentially ink on paper signed. They're just waiting to find something for her creatively.
And creatively, they're waiting for Cardona to debut at the Rumble, and all of a sudden, maybe she debuts at the Rumble. She's just a female surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it would do her a world of good. I know she wants to break out and make her own way, but those two entering that company, they would be great together.
If they let them work like they did on the Indies, I think it would be a great story to tell in WWE. Like Cardona, supposedly Hunter is loving what Matt did on the Indies, and he's a big fan of it. And supposedly he did not like him when he was Zack Ryder, depending on what story you want to believe. But so it's going to be fun to see if he is back. Imagine you sign a contract though, and all of a sudden, a week before you debut, Vince takes over creative again. Oh man.
So. We mentioned
I got one more surprise.
That's what I was going to say. Who's some other surprises that we haven't brought up that could be possibilities?
So this one I'm not taking credit for. I'm going to give to my co-host on what I do wrestling content, BP Burke. BP Burke thinks his surprise that he thinks happening is we're going to get one last appearance in WWE, well, first appearance ever, but one last appearance in the States under a WWE banner. I think the Great Muta. He thinks the Great Muta showing up in the Rumble.
I mean, I've heard rumors of him having a match at Mania. So who knows? I mean, it could be.
Maybe he shows up at the Rumble and sets something up, and maybe the WWE's not sending Shinsuke over to not get something in return.
And that's the same thing I heard about the Mania match. So maybe that's true, and that's a great call if it is, because Great Muta should have a match in WWE.
And they're not beyond it. I mean, let's remember that in Jushin Thunder Liger's final run, he had a match with Tyler Breeze in NXT.
Who made that happen? Triple H.
Exactly. So it's a very Triple H thing to do if Great Muta shows up. That would be interesting, man. If his music hit, I'm always, I know it's 30 spots. It sounds like 30 people, but those spots go quick. They fill up. And I'm always very intrigued by who WWE puts in those kind of surprise slots. If they do, sometimes they don't even have surprises, but how are they weighing this? Because there's some Great Muta for the hardcores. We're going to lose our minds. But for those 10, 11-year-old, 12-year-old kids, a hush fills the crowd. Are they going to say it? Are they going to pop? Are they going to?
You will, because you got a lot of people coming to the Rumble from all over the world. It's like one of the events that draws a crowd from all over, diehard wrestling fans. It's probably the biggest, the most exciting event for fans all over the world. People love the Rumble. They don't watch anything else but the Rumble. even if you watch other wrestling and you don't watch WWE, you still turn in for the Rumble because it's such a fun event. So yeah, I think he would get a pop.
And Muda has recently, within the past couple months, has shown up in American television on AEW. So it's not like most of your casual fans who probably watch WWE probably watch AEW, and AEW kind of laid the groundwork to tell you who this guy is. So when he shows up, I think he'll get a reaction.
I'm gonna throw one more name out there. I think it's time for this guy to be a surprise entrant in the Rumble. Let's say Bubba Ray Dudley makes a return.
Oh, please God, no. Keep him out of
He's
wrestling.
already had his Rumble surprises, though.
I could see another one. Somebody, you need to go back to somebody.
He's Impact, man.
He's already ruined an Impact in NWA. Keep him on Busted Open where he belongs.
Yeah, he's got that contract with
somebody
NWA
to make another entrance. And
I'm not a Bubba fan at all. I had recently. I was at a con, and it was just literally vendors on one side, and all the fans are essentially not near anybody. Like, literally, the only fan that was in this walkway was Bully and this one fan. And this fan was clearly special needs, and he's like, "Hey, Bubba, I'm a big fan." Dude didn't even turn his head; just blew this kid right off. I was like, "What a piece of garbage."
Well, I mean, if you listen,
all of his friends know he's a piece of garbage, so it's not like it's like that's not a shocking revelation.
He's got a reputation. I mean, it goes without saying. I listened to Busted Open Radio every day for about 3-4 years. I was an avid listener, and man, he would grate on me so bad. Some of his takes would just make me want to put my head through a wall.
There's a lot of Impact talent that I'm hearing did not like the fact, or does not like the fact, that he's back and taking up a main event slot.
I bet.
And also when that same con that I was at, that he was at, all the ECW people, because it was an ECW themed con, all got together for a photo and put a photo out, and everybody's in the photo except one person.
Wow.
I don't know if he wasn't invited for the photo or he just refused to do it.
Well, we got Colton back. Colton, who are your picks for some surprises in the Rumble?
Sorry about the holler net issue here, boys.
No worries, dude.
My pick is, man, yeah, I've missed out a little bit of what you guys were saying, but I think Cardona is my number one pick for a surprise. I mean, I think it makes the most sense. We've already signed. His wife's been re-signed, right? Did I read that correctly the other day? Yeah. So she's been signed for a while. They've just been kind of waiting on it, though. And if he comes back, that's the only way he comes back is as Matt Cardona, like you were saying earlier, Chad. I mean, if they bring him in, if Vince takes over last minute and is like, guess what, pal, we're doing Zack Ryder again. That might be the biggest fucking disappointment I've ever seen in wrestling.
You see the heat it would get? That's exactly why I would do it.
Right?
Matt Cardona comes out as number 27.
Yeah. As much as I would love to see Jay White, I don't think Jay White's going to show up. I think Jay White's a long way. I know it sounds like he's moving on from New Japan, or at least for the moment being, but I think he's a long way from getting in a WWE ring. I mean, I've seen him in, I think, 2 out of the 4 Impact shows I went to in 2022. Like, guy likes to get around. He's got plenty of places to go, but I don't see him showing up at WWE right now. I think, especially with the waters being kind of murky and unclear of what's going to happen with who's running the show here on the day by day. I don't see that happening. As much as I'd like to see all this or another big surprise, honestly, I think Cardona is probably the only big one. I've been racking my brain to kind of see who might be an old WWE legend that shows back up. So I haven't really come up with one, but I think we might get a relatively exciting like legend pop in for a couple of rounds. So,
do you think any NXT people on the men's side are in the Rumble?
Braun Breaker would be nice to see him pop.
I think Braun Breaker's I think he's in your final 5 or final 6.
Grayson Waller could possibly get called up too. He's getting a lot of steam behind him. You know, someone, a name from the past, just for a little surprise, a little pop for the people that I think could possibly happen. And I've seen it gain a little bit of traction on social media. Chris Masters. I think he's been lobbying for it. He was in that time. He was the Vince body guy. He was like out of Vince's wet dream, but he's got off the gas a little bit, slimmed down, and he's been putting in really good work across the independents and in NWA. And I could see him popping up, not with a contract, but just one of those one-off. Hey, here's a guy from the past. I could see Chris Masters showing up too.
I think we can get a returning Edge or Randy Orton as well.
What about a Ryback? Maybe we get a Ryback appearance.
Please God, no. Ryback and Bully. I don't know. They're two picks. I love you, Tom, but
I love Bully, but Ryback,
I think in the women's side too. I think you get a returning Naomi at the Rumble.
I do too.
Yeah,
that's a good one. That's a
I think
for that.
Naomi for sure.
Dude, going back to NXT guys, I'd love to see. He was going by Jordan Devlin, or they call him JD McDonough now. I'd like to see him make an appearance.
Yeah, someone who I think isn't off the table for a Rumble surprise. I don't think it's out of the question we see Mandy Rose show up.
I was just gonna say, anybody think Mandy Rose shows up? I wouldn't be shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Firing is so bizarre to me. Like, it's so bizarre. So, like, the theory is, right, she WWE was very well aware that she was making that content. They knew she had I guess they didn't maybe know to what extreme, but at the end of the day, like, they're telling her to send photos in of her naked with the titles over her private parts. So they're over-sexualizing her anyway. She's just doing it on her own. Now, and then people are like, well, it's different. You can't compare her stuff to when people got their photos leaked when they had private photos because she's selling it. But when you have a paid subscription service that people have to pay money to get into, if that makes it out of there, guess what that is? That's a leak. That's not for general public consumption. So how is hers any different than anybody else's?
Right.
I don't know. I think it was an ass backer's way to fire somebody.
It's very weird. There's a lot of weird, like you said, it didn't seem like everything was on the up and up with that firing. Two names I want to throw out, because sometimes they'll throw out a legend. They'll bring out a legend. I think two on the table. If X-Pac, I think X-Pac's on the table. He had that match, that little feud with Janela in GCW. I know he had an injury coming out of that, but that was a while ago. He's healed that injury. Another person I think is a possibility we could see is Scotty 2 Hotty. Scotty 2 Hotty had like a 30-minute banger with Joey Janela in GCW.
Wow.
JTG, if they do the Shad. Yeah.
JTG for sure.
People like it makes the Rumble fun when you get those guys in there. What about on a women's side? I mean, half the women's Rumble is usually surprises because they don't usually have the roster to hold it.
I mean, I think Chelsea Green. I think Mandy Rose is like a dark horse. Who'd you say, Anthony?
Naomi, Beth Phoenix.
Yeah.
I love your thing with Beth Phoenix and Rhea Ripley. That sets up another great Mania match.
Honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if you see somehow for Mania you get an intergender match with Rhea. I think Rhea that could be a possibility as well too. They've been teasing that a lot.
I wouldn't be shocked if Lita shows back up.
So are you guys talking about Raw 30? Is that on the docket?
What do you got to say?
So they did the promo of Raw 30 and they showed a whole bunch of people. And then they put a graphic up saying, here are the legends that are coming. And it was about 80% of the people who were in the trailer. And The Rock was in the trailer, but wasn't announced. Stone Cold was in the trailer, but not announced. Lita, Trish in the trailer, not announced. I didn't watch a lot of like Ruthless Aggression era, so I don't know who was being thrown through a window. Was that Edge and Randy?
I believe so, yes.
When someone got thrown through their front house window. So
I think that was Triple H.
Was it Triple H?
Didn't Triple H throw somebody through a window?
Like it was someone's house. It looked like it wasn't like the Brian Pillman thing, but it was like the shot was outside the window and the guy got thrown through. I don't know who was in that bit. When I don't know something, I'm not a wrestling fan. I goes, yeah, I remember that, and never seen it. But I think Raw 30, we're gonna get a lot of faces come back, and maybe some of them declare they're in the Rumble.
That'd be fun.
That would be really fun.
The match he put out on Mania. I think he has one more in him.
Any more thoughts or guesses before we move on to topic number 3?
No, I'm tapped. I hope. What I'm really hoping is there's a name that shows up that we didn't even mention, that we're not thinking about, that really shocks us. That would be fun, but nobody else is on. I would like a big AEW guy to jump ship, but with contracts and things, I can't think of anyone who would be able to do that.
I don't think there's anyone that's free right now.
No.
Well, yeah. I mean, what's Sean Spears up to? Is he free?
Yeah, that's a possibility. Maybe.
Does anybody know Sean
released?
Spears' contract status? I mean, they're not doing a damn thing with him. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard one way or the other.
And he was a Triple H guy, so I'd love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he did come out and say that you're not going to see him in AEW. So I think he is on the open market.
And that opens the door for returning Iconics. Please God, yes. I want Iconics back in the worst way.
That's true.
They're the most entertaining tag team in forever. And the only person who's scratching that iconic itch for me is the chick from Chase U on NXT. She is literally Billy Starks reinvented. Her facial expressions, her everything. But I love you, Billy Starks, but this girl's way better of a wrestler.
I'll say this: Triple H in charge. I think there was a chance of the Iconics returning.
Oh, I would
sooner
love
or
it.
later. Anyway,
they could be in the Rumble.
What's her name's pregnant at the moment?
Yeah,
Cassie Lee.
Any day now.
Pregnant. Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's move on to topic number 3. Could the Bloodline story survive as successfully without Sami Zayn?
Yes.
No.
I think he's friggin' pumped some fresh life into that story, some much needed fresh life. It was just the same thing over and over. Man, fresh blood in there. I'm loving it. I think it's brought the story to a whole nother level. I don't think so. I think it was going to fade itself out if they didn't do something to rejuvenate it. And Sami Zayn was just what the doctor ordered.
I mean, I guess if you go by the word could, I guess it could be successful. You bring The Rock in, you go full steam ahead into there's a ton of things they could do. Bring The Rock in, head of the table. Go sign Jacob Fatu, get him involved in the bloodline. You got me there. I'm all signed up for that shit. But would it be? I don't think so. Just judging by what we've seen this story, how it's happened. Okay, everyone wants to tout this, man. Roman hasn't been pinned in X amount of years. This title reign is now getting up into the top 2, 3, 4 title reigns of all time. That's all by design. That's all booking. That doesn't impress me. They've booked him that way. That's not, I mean, it is cool in the kayfabe world. It's cool. It's awesome. We've got this dominant champion. He's killing it. He's a great heel, but I'm not overly impressed by booking choices. What overly impresses me is when a guy comes in, finds himself organically. They didn't map this out. They did not map him out to be this big. The crowd has got behind Sami Zayn because he has stolen the hearts of the fans. The way he's acting, no one intended this to be what it is. The whole honorary Oos, the whole Oosie, all of that is off the cuff shit that is catching. It reminds me of Attitude Era when Stone Cold or The Rock would say something off the cuff and it becomes this thing that takes over wrestling fandom. And I think we're in the middle of one of the more organic evolutions of a character. I'm not saying Sami Zayn's breaking the mold. The guy's always been great in the ring, highly entertaining, but we're seeing him take another step where if they were to put him in a true main event spot, I think a lot of fans would get behind it, and he would be one of the biggest baby faces in the company if they went that direction. So could it be successful? Sure, it could be successful, but Sami Zayn has added a wrinkle to this story that I don't think they could have replicated.
Can I pose this question?
Chad, I think
would Sami Zayn be as entertaining if he wasn't in the bloodline?
Sami Zayn was always entertaining. So
agreed.
Yes.
But I will say this, and I'm going to kind of do a little poo-poo on the wrestling community. Not everybody was into conspiracy theory, Sammy. I personally loved it, but people were like, "Get this off my teeth." People didn't like.
I wasn't into it.
Yeah, the last 3 Sami Zayn character story things that he's been doing, this comedy shtick he's been doing. People don't want to say he's a comedy character, but he is. He's been a comedy character for a minute now. But the last 3 things he's been doing, when he came out and when he said AEW on TV and he was doing that Sami Zayn, then he switched to conspiracy theory, then he switched to Johnny Knoxville. There's still people who were like, that should have not have been a WrestleMania match. How dare they put Sami Zayn with Johnny Knoxville? I thought that match was super entertaining. I personally am I loved all Sami stuff before that. I'm not just saying it because of the Honorary Oos stuff, but Sami Zayn was not getting over doing the same exact thing he's doing right now until he joined the bloodline. So I think not only did it work, but I think the bloodline was already very well established, and I think SAMI helped them as much as they helped SAMI. Because when SAMI was doing this by himself and he wasn't going for anybody big, and he was doing it for IC titles that nobody cared about, and US like it wasn't as big as it was. So I think it's a perfect mix of the both. But listen, if you have a storyline involving the bloodline and Paul Heyman's involved, I don't care who you put in there. They're going to find a way to make it work. But SAMI's just very good at what he does.
No, I'm with you. It takes both. You know, I don't think SAMI would have been the whole dynamic of these super serious Samoans with this redheaded goofball. I mean, that is the life of this story. And the fact that he's even broken down the wall that is Roman Reigns, and Roman like smile anytime he gets Roman's approval. It's so great within the context of the story. So I think you're spot on. They both need each other, but man, I could see SAMI. He wouldn't have grown to the point he is now without them, and they wouldn't. I feel like their story would have kind of became old. But I think SAMI brings
why
more
everyone
to them.
popped and laughed on camera for the Usi thing?
Yeah.
You know what Usi means?
What?
So when you say Us in that,
it's like
it
brother,
means family, brother, sister. Yeah. It just means family, like really close. Usi is essentially calling somebody a pussy, and SAMI didn't know that, so he just added a Y. That's why when he said it, everyone was like, because SAMI didn't know, and then that's why WWE's not putting that on merchandise, because if people start researching it, that's why, like, because I'm very fortunate to live in the Northeast Pennsylvania area, so there's tons of bloodline who live. Like, I work with Alpha Junior all the time. I work
that's awesome.
Like, Lance Anahi, like Alpha is not Alpha. Sorry. Samu, he has a school not too far from me. So there's a lot of bloodline history that takes place where I'm from. Like, The Rock grew up not too far from me in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Like, so where I'm from is essentially a very it's as close as you're going to get to the bloodline without being actually from the islands, you know? But yeah, so that's one of the little inside things I learned, that's why they are all popping, because that's what Usi stands. Like, Usi means something completely different from what Sami Zayn thought. And then when he said
that's
it on
hilarious.
TV, they all started popping. Yeah, but Sammy's essentially saying things on TV to try to get them to laugh. How you're saying, very Attitude Era, where Rock, Stone Cold, and Undertaker would go out and just be like, "We're gonna do something really funny to make our boys break on camera." That's what Sammy's doing.
It's the same thing what Mick Foley did with The Rock and Stone Cold. You know, This Is Your Life, Rock, and all those.
Oh yeah,
like it's very similar to that, blueprint.
Yeah.
So. What do you think, Colton?
Yeah, I think the bloodline storyline would be on life support without Sami Zayn. Like, it could definitely still get by, but it would be, I was pretty bored of it before they brought him in. I mean, I think that he's absolutely given it the life it needed. Yeah, I mean, you could still, I think that Roman's a good heel, but I think we'd feel it was a little played out right now without him. I think he's the best part of WWE, period, right now. He's my favorite person to watch on TV. But yeah, I think Bloodline would be on life support without old Sami. So I'm excited to see where they take it.
I love the entrance when he's there and the Bloodline's all serious and he's like the little puppy dog with all the energy.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there popping for him when he does that with them. Like, everything he does just cracks me up. I love what he's done for the story.
Did you guys talk about Regal's facial expressions, man? Like, Sammy's facial expressions tell such a story every time. It's
so true. So
the
true.
The only person for me that gets me that Sami vibes was Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly does the small things on screen that you don't pay attention to after you watch it back, or you see, you're like, you're like, what an idiot. I never knew he was doing that. Like, the first time, like when he just come out playing the guitar, like playing the belt like a guitar, and then like they're doing a backstage interview and he's kind of sitting backstage and he's like acting like he's tuning it. Like, but no one's paying attention to Kyle, but he's doing stupid stuff like that. Like, that's that old ROH stuff, man. Like, that's the stupid stuff, like that all those brain powers were together at one point in time, and they're just like, would this be funny if we did this? Like, that's what Sami reminds me of.
One thing with this Sami thing that, like you said, Colton, I think it had plateaued to me before Sami came in. It was just a lot of the same, and then he brought this new layer to it. And I think that's the beauty of this storyline. When you look back on it, we could have another couple years of this. Who knows how long they take this? But when you look back on the story of the Bloodline, there's the beginning, and then there's the SAMI. We could have a whole other chapter to this that has yet to be unveiled, whether it's bringing in more family, whether it's The Rock, and that opens it up to a whole new little chapter of the story. Right now, we're kind of in this SAMI chapter, and that's why I kind of respect Triple H and Paul Heyman and the guys behind this story, is because they found ways. I think they themselves felt it getting stale. That's like, we need something. We need a X factor to throw in there to make it entertaining week to week. Because let's be honest, most of the stories being told in segments in the ring or backstage. It's not like these guys are wrestling every Friday night. They're not.
And
so
they
they
found
found
because they're not.
Exactly. And they've made it special, but you've got to have those little wrinkles. And right now we're in the SAMI wrinkle. I'm interested to see what's next, especially if Cody Rhodes gets brought into the equation or The Rock gets brought into the equation.
I'll tell you what, I think you nailed it on the head. This bloodline thing is not ending when the Sami Zayn breakup happens. This bloodline thing is not ending when The Rock shows up. This is something that's going to last the test of time. This is going to last, because here's the deal, man. A lot of you may not know it, but there's a lot more bloodline out there, and there's a lot more bloodline that's not signed. There's a lot of bloodline children that are out there that'll be coming up through the ranks. This is something that's going to last the test of time. This is going to be a stable that you're going to be talking about for 10, 15 years and referring back to. And I think this version of this story has already put itself up there with one, probably in the top 5 stables of all-time wrestling history. You can't look at this and say the longest reigning dual tag team champions, the longest reigning dual WWE Universal Champion. Just kayfabe story-wise, this is one of the most dominant stables in WWE in wrestling history. I think they've cemented themselves. Roman has already cemented himself as a future 3-time Hall of Famer with the bloodline, with the Shield, and just as a solo career.
I don't think it's going to happen, but what the Usos need to help make them is to fight FTR in a banger match. I don't think FTR leaves AEW, but if they did go back to WWE and we get that feud, that would help elevate them so much more.
If Triple H is smart and he starts working these deals and relationships out as well with New Japan, I think the match that I want to see more than FTR, more than the Bucks, more than anything, is God versus the Usos.
That would be fun. Tama Tonga. That would be fun, man.
There's rumors Hunter has his eyes on them. So if you read the dirt sheets, Hunter has his eyes on him. He wants
and on Hikuleo as well.
Yep.
Oh,
I think there's a lot. What you're saying, Anthony, I agree with. I think this is going to be a faction, even if it goes away. I think this is one of those factions when the next group of kids from this dynasty gets of age, you could see a quote unquote new bloodline 15, 20 years from now with a Roman Reigns as the old man, the mentor. This is a storyline that they could tap into generations to come.
We're still, Natalya is the only one who's carrying on the Hart Foundation, the Hart name, the Hart this, Hart that. This bloodline is thick, and there's a lot of blood that runs through this line, and it's not going anywhere. And if WWE is smart, this can be something that will stand the test of time.
Very true.
That's it. All right, guys. Any closing thoughts before we close?
Colton, you have anything?
One last thing with the bloodline. Another thing with this bloodline too is older talent is being pulled into the bloodline that people didn't even realize were bloodline members. Like, people look back at the head shrinkers, Rikishi, Umanga, like people who weren't even connected as characters at one point. Like Yokozuna, they're like, that's all bloodline. Like they're older people in that people probably aren't even aware that we're members of that family.
Even the way they started it with offering Sika out there to put the lay on Roman.
Yeah, that was a huge moment for this storyline.
The action figures are reestablishing. Like the head shrinkers are getting a new line of elites coming out very soon, and they're getting chase versions. This is good for that whole family and for everybody involved.
And you know who the brains behind this? Who's close to that family? Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman has orchestrated to bring the importance back onto this family, to really shine the light on how important this family is to wrestling. Hats off to Paul Heyman.
Where does Paul fall in all-time great managers? Now, if you ask Paul, that he would say he's probably 3, because he probably wouldn't put himself over Cornette and Heenan. and Cornette wouldn't put himself over Heenan anyway, so everyone says it would be Heenan number 1. And I love Bobby Heenan, but dude, Paul Heyman, for me, he's number 1, bro. He's so good.
Top Heenan for me.
Yeah, Heenan and Paul are tied for 1, but Paul's so good. What a
he's amazing.
I got Heenan, Heyman, and a tie at 3 between Cornette and Don Callis. I love Don Callis. I think he's highly underrated.
I agree. All right, guys. Go ahead, Colton.
Sorry, man. I'm still getting that lag pretty bad. Thanks for putting up with me.
No, you're good, man.
Dude, for me, Heyman has got to be. He's probably top 2 for me. I'm a huge Don Callis guy, but I'm still new to Callis. So somebody we didn't mention throwing in top 3 managers for me, man. I'm a big, old school Southern wrestling fan. Jimmy Hart, Mouth of the South, baby, is always going to be up there for me. I know it's corny as shit.
I don't know if you've ever met him. Nicest human being you'll ever meet.
Yeah, I've never met him. I have talked to people that met him. I heard he eats a really strange diet. Likes to eat like baked beans with American cheese over top of it. That's pretty much all he wants from catering.
He talks just like that all the time.
Yeah.
First time I met him, I wasn't even paying attention, and I was at a show, and someone patted my butt, and I heard, "Hey, how you doing, baby?" And I turned, I was like, Jimmy Hart just pat my butt. Now, I may have been high as shit at the time. So, had to help the situation. And then I met him the second time. I was like, there's no way he remembers me. But my hair's up right now, but I have hair down on my chest. So I wave, and he goes, "Hey, we seen you in Hamburg, baby." And we sat there and hung out. And then I was watching 2 years ago playoff football with Jimmy Hart during a wrestling show. And I walked away, and I went over to my buddy. I'm like, "Go get a chair. Just go over there and sit next to that TV, so you can just say you watch playoff football with Jimmy Hart." Everybody goes,
"That's awesome."
That is awesome,
dude. That's awesome. It makes me so happy.
He's helped putting chairs up. He's helped taking chairs down. Like, this guy's a legend, and he's like picking up trash off the floor. Like, Jimmy, what are you doing? And he's like,
he's a pro.
There's no celebrity in that guy's body. Like, everything's just 100% genuine. That's so awesome to hear firsthand.
That's awesome.
Anthony, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
You can find me all social media, Anthony Blackwell Jr. YouTube channel. We're getting really close to that 500 mark. The overall goal is 1,000, but I only made this channel maybe a couple months ago, and I'm averaging like 100 and some subscribers a month, which is insane. So the support has been amazing. But I think I just hit 460, so I have 2 weeks to see if I can hit that 500 mark. Like I said, I had 4 or 5 podcasts for 4 years, and the highest I've ever gotten any of my channels was 585 subscribers. And I'm closing in on it in less than 3 to 4 months with this new channel. So the rebranding was terrifying. It was tons of anxiety and depression and wondering if I made the right choice. But it seems like that it has been the right choice. The support has been great. The interviews have been fun, and there's a lot more to come. I'm adding. It won't be just like podcast content, but it'll be YouTube content. But I'm adding like pop culture reviews, like movies, comic books, music albums, and then I'm gonna have people come on. So if any of you are like, "Yo, this is my favorite movie or my favorite album," we watch it and then we come and talk about it and break it down. I'm doing horror movie stuff with my wife because my wife's a huge horror movie junkie. This is the favorite thing I'm doing. So you guys like this because you're a Tavern. Where I live in Northeast Pennsylvania, all these small coal towns have the population of like 1,000 people, but it has like 16 bars in the town. Like that's on every bar. There's a church and a bar on every corner. So I'm gonna start doing brewery and dive bar reviews. Where I'm just gonna go into these bars and just like film my experience, order a couple beers if they have food, just kind of soak in the dive bar experience, and maybe interview some regulars there, because you know that old man who sit at the bar for 15 years, and you go in and you just drink and you have a conversation. I want to try to capture that on camera and bring that to the channel. So that's coming very soon. So it's not just wrestling content. If you go now, it is very heavy wrestling content, but yeah, I'm trying to bring more to that. I want to start vlogging again when I do my commentary stuff. So I'm traveling from Pennsylvania to Jersey to New York. Hopefully add more states to my list, but I want to start vlogging those experiences, and tons of independent wrestling talent. So if you want to check out the ABJ podcast, a lot of up and coming stars I think I'm grabbing now before they get big.
Awesome. Guys, go check out the ABJ podcast. Dude, if you ever want to blow some stuff out, tag us and we'll share it on our feed. The little following that we have, maybe you can grab some of our people and have them
Yeah,
check
and,
out.
and I've been
yourself.
doing live watch alongs. So usually every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm going to try to stay consistent with those, and maybe Fridays if I don't want to go to a bar. I've been watching. So as soon as I get log off here, I'm actually jumping on. I'm doing a live stream of NXT. So if you guys are ever free, man, hit me up if you want to join in and just watch along NXT or Raw or SmackDown or any of those things with me. The door's always open. But I added that to the channel as well, so that's been fun.
Awesome.
And normally when I'm not live, I'm at Tony Deppin's Brewery. That's not too far from me, and it's like a pro wrestling bar. It's a blast.
Very cool.
Colton, tell the people where they can find you.
You guys can find me at mullet.mania on Instagram. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The Turnbuckle Tavern.
Can we just talk about how amazing that mustache and mullet is, and then the Dale Earnhardt over your shoulder? That is the greatest. You have the greatest thing going on the internet. I don't know how you're not the most famous person ever.
Thanks, brother. Because I'm not on there enough, man. Yeah, I appreciate it very much. So, yeah.
The fucking Intimidator. The Intimidator's popping me. I've never brought that up, but the Intimidator is key.
So that Intimidator is oh my God, hell yeah. Dude, I've got one that matches that almost exactly that I got out of like a fucking claw machine at a race world when I was a kid.
Nice.
Talk about a throwback there. That's
the
first hat.
The MGD.
Yeah.
God, I love the smokeless tobacco ad NASCAR stuff. I got a skull sign right over here, man. I'm just a huge, like my dad's side of the family are big time rednecks. I love wrestling and NASCAR. Like, not ironically, I still follow NASCAR. I love it because it's the shortest off season of any fucking sport, man. It ends right before Thanksgiving and it comes back first weekend of February. So it's a blast. But yeah, I'm still getting
NASCAR got really fun.
Oh yeah, dude. Ross Chastain. They've got this. Ross Chastain is a fucking watermelon farmer from Florida, man. Anytime he wins a race, he smashes a watermelon on the track, picks up parts of it, and eats it. But he's the guy you. Who?
Guy local to us. Our local guy was Jimmy Spencer. Remember Jimmy Spencer?
Oh yeah,
I do remember Jimmy Spencer.
He was always throwing punches. He was a big fat dude. His elbow would stick out the car. He was so big.
All right, guys, I guess that'll wrap us up. Thank you for joining us. Until next week, you can find me, the OG Fit Kid, on Twitter and Instagram. I got my shit in Sneed. Until then, court is dismissed.